So although we don't really know many of the specific details of the story yet, besides the whole Overseer versus Howler gangs, and besides the whole supernatural being trying to overthrow Emily from the throne, I've watched a lot of the gameplay that we've seen so far, and the trailers actually looks really in-depth into them. I actually made an in-depth video if you're interested in checking that one out, and that looks really close, and I have come up with a bit of a theory of my own as far as the story goes. So through watching the gameplay and the trailers as in-depth as I possibly could, I just noticed some inconsistencies and little pointers to this idea, and I actually believe that either Emily or Corvo, however you don't pick to play the game as, will be killed. Now, this is just a theory. This is not me trying to, say, oh, this is how it's going to be, or this is not me trying to, like, bait views or anything. I know a lot of people do that nowadays, and I really try not to do that where possible. This is just, it's my theory, and I want to get it out there and talk about it a bit and see what you guys have to think. So, yeah, let's go. Now, I have a few pointers towards this. There isn't really one overarching thing, which is like, oh, this makes it seem like this, and then these things sort of, agree with that. I more have a few different, like, smaller pointers, but there are a fair few. So we do already know from various interviews, as well as a couple of things mentioned at E3, that when the game plays, we will start as Corvo, we'll play a little bit of the game as Corvo, and then we'll be presented with the opportunity to choose between Corvo or Emily. At that point, once you've made your decision, you'll play the rest of the game as that character. You won't be able to switch out at any point, you'll be stuck with that character. We also know that from mentioned at E3 that the game starts in Dunwall, as we saw, and then we go to Carnico, which is where most of the game is held, and then we will end up back in Dunwall. So my first point that leads me to believe that something happens to the player is, first of all, why not have both? Now, we've been told specifically that once you choose your character, you're that character for the whole game. Now, my thinking is, why can't you play both characters? Now, fair enough, from a gameplay standpoint, I think that works, I think it makes sense. But if you look at it this way, I know a fair few people were saying that would be really good. So, the fact that that isn't a thing, I'm sort of thinking, well, why not? Well, let's put it this way, if they're trying to overthrow this supernatural force which is trying to, get her off the throne, they're also trying to deal with the Overseers versus the Howler gangs whilst they're on Carnicos, would it not make sense for Emily and Corvo to work together as these people who are really trained? Obviously, Corvo has the powers, and we see that as the game goes on, Emily develops her powers, so I sort of am thinking, why wouldn't they be working together? Now, this could just be because whoever you play as, the other one gets, arrested or abducted or whatever, but we'll talk about the other pointers next. Now, this one's a bit sketchy because we don't yet know why the player will end up in Carnicos, besides the fact that she makes her own way there, because we see as, she is running down the road at that one point in the trailer, and she's or at that one point in the earlier gameplay, she's like, hey, I'll go and talk to that sailor, and then she ends up in Carnicos. So I believe that she is fleeing Dunwall to get to Carnicos, or at least for whatever reason she wants to be there. So maybe the person has been arrested or abducted, and she's trying to get away to sort it out, or maybe they've been taken to Carnicos, so maybe they haven't been killed. But yeah, let's go on to the other points. So the reason why I first initially thought this is because in the trailers we actually see, first of all, in the opening cutscene, they're walking through the hall and they're both together, and then from that point on, after the bit where there's like a bit of cut gameplay and it goes to the more actiony heavy bits after you've made the decision, from that point on it basically shows them together in the cutscene. It then shows them back to back surrounded by Carnicos guards, and it talks about how you have to make a decision between playing an Emily and Corvo. From that point where you make your decision, everything's shown after that point in the trailers and in the gameplay. We don't ever see them both in the same shot. Now, if you look at the images I'm showing on screen now, there's a couple of shots from Emily's perspective, and in none of those shots do you see Corvo. Similarly, there's a couple of shots where it shows Corvo killing people, and in none of those shots do you see Emily. So in all the shots after you choose the character, you will not see both of the characters in the same shot. You don't see the other character from one's perspective, or you don't see an outside shot showing them both. You only see one in each shot. So why would Emily still be in the hall but Corvo wouldn't, or why would Corvo still be in the hall but Emily wouldn't, unless they took one of them and then managed to stop Corvo from getting Emily back before they could take her out, and then he fights them, or they're gonna take him too and then he gets rid of them or something. I don't really see how it would work. 100% that I could see that happening, to be fair. I know I just said I don't really see how it would, but actually I could see it happening, I could see it working, but I don't know, it does just seem like a possibility, and this would work if it was a thing. If one of the characters did get killed, then that'd make this make sense. The next thing I wanted to talk about is you see Corvo kill one of the Dunwall guards, and this raised my suspicion a little btle bit, because Emily is actually the Empress of Dunwall at this point, so the guards are working for her. Corvo is her royal protector, but also her dad, which we now know from the little gameplay as well, for the opening cutscene. So those guards are on their side. And then we see later on when they're being surrounded and you've got to choose your character, they're surrounded by the Carnicos guards. So I'm wondering, why is that a thing? Why is Corvo killing the Dunwall guards? So my thinking was either that's because he's mad because Emily has just been killed and he's like really mad that they weren't able to protect her, so now he's like just gone mental and started killing people. Or alternatively, it could be, as we see earlier, this Delilah-looking woman. Now, this could be Delilah, it could not be Delilah, I don't actually know. I'm saying it's Delilah just because she looks like her, and we'll say it for the sake of this video, but it could just be some other witch-looking woman. She looks like she could, like, you know, influence people's minds with, like, her witchy powers. So, it could be Corvo being mad about the fact that Emily's just been killed, or it could just be the fact that Delilah has turned him against his own people for the battle. Like, she's gone boop in his head and now she's controlling him to kill them. But if she's controlling him to kill the guards, maybe she's controlling him to kill Emily as well. But who knows, I just thought it was a little bit suspicious that Corvo would be killing the Dunwall people when they're the ones that are on his side. Unless they were sort of Carnicos people and they were like undercover to try and get in or something, or in disguise, something like that. And lastly, this one's a little bit of a weaker point, but this is that the games are very, very similar. Now, if you do watch my in-depth gameplay breakdown, bearing in mind it is like an hour and 15 minutes long, so, you know, but I realised quite a lot that there are a lot of similarities. Obviously, the art style, they really wanted to, the art style and the gameplay, they wanted to make it similar, because that's what they were saying, but even things like the UI, the powers, and down to the smallest things like the technology, even I pointed at one point in the gameplay trailer, even the bookshelf was the same bookshelf as in the first game, or like it was more usually used to store food, not really books, but like in shops and stuff. So even the shelves are the same, the crates were the same. At one point we saw like a luggage trunk which was the same. The games were very, very similar in the look, the feel, the atmosphere. It was all very similar. Now in the first game, Jessamine dies in the open scene. So if in this game either one of the characters died in the open scene, we already see that they're at this ceremony. You know, in the first game you get like Jessamine in the gazebo and they're talking. In this game they're at the ceremony. In the first game, Dowd shows up with his assassins and kills her. In this game, Delilah shows up with the Carnicos guards and kills one of them. It's a potential, it would be very similar, it would follow down the same path. And I think because of the nature of the game, I know sometimes we'll get one, say, film or game, and then the sequel will have very similar stories, and it's like, what's the point? In this one, I think it would actually work following the same suit, because it's the nature of the game and it's the nature of how they've made the sequel that it's similar to the first one. So if that was the case, if they were at this, you know, ceremony, Delilah showed up, one of them ends up getting killed, that to me would sort of work, it would make sense. So it is just a theory. Game theory, I'm not going to go there. It is just a theory, but I don't know, I feel like some of the points weren't as strong, but, you know, the fact that the intros could be very similar together would work. I think the Delilah bit was a bit weak, but the fact where they're from after the characters are chosen, you never see both of them in the same shot, and also the fact that I don't see why they wouldn't be collaborating together throughout the game, they all sort of lead up to make me think and believe that maybe one of them dies. And you know what? I think that would work really well. It'd make an impact for the start of the game, because if they don't die, then you've got to think of some way where it'd be like, oh, you play as one, but you don't play as the other for this reason, and you've got to think of another reason around it. But if one of them does die, then that's it. The character's got their motivations for the rest of the game. Being overthrown from the throne, you know what? Obviously, that's a good enough reason, because it's called Dishonored, right? That's the point. But that completely offsets the whole fucking motivations of the game, because at the end of the day, Corvo was probably more pissed about the fact that his, you know, I guess girlfriend, which wasn't really his wife, but he was probably more pissed about the fact that his girlfriend was killed in front of him and his daughter was kidnapped than he was about the fact that he got blamed for a murder. Similar in this game, if he saw his daughter killed before him, or if Emily saw her dad killed before her, that's a lot of motivation to be pretty pissed, especially if it was by, like, Dunwall people or Carnica people who are just across, like, the sea type thing where they're supposed to be friends. So, you know, I could see that working, I could see it making sense, and I thought I'd talk to you guys about it. So that's going to do it for this video. Let me know what you guys think of that theory, if you guys agree, if you guys disagree, if you have any counterpoints to any of the points I've said in the video. Thank you for watching. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did enjoy, a like would be really fucking helpful. It takes 2 seconds, but really helps the channel out, and I'm very appreciative of that. And if you want to see more, and you haven't already done so, then subscribe. There'll be a bunch more Dishonored news and stuff coming out as it comes out. So, other than that, mine's been Nate. I'll see you guys next time. Peace, guys.